Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another Mastermind Advisor podcast. I'm excited today because we're going to be talking about seminars and how to make your seminars perform. We can talk about webinars too, but I have Josh with me, who is normally with us on these podcasts. But Josh has a major specialty in marketing, but also helping with seminars, because when I first started doing seminars, I was doing dinner seminars and then I switched to the digital format. And we were working, we did them on our own, but I also knew about Formula Folios, who I use for an asset manager, and they were doing the same thing. I'm like, well, I'm going to use them as well, because they would lock the territory based on who was in that area using the portfolios, right? So then I'm like, all right, well, I already know it works, so I might as well do theirs as well. And so Josh was the main man over there helping me with the retirement. There, it was called Retirement Wealth Academy. He was helping run all the seminars, but I'm not trying to toot my own horn here. We were doing a lot better than a lot of other advisors that were using Retirement Wealth Academy. And that's because we followed the process that they told us to follow. And a lot of advisors weren't following that process. So I want to go over the process that we used to make sure that we had good quality prospects showing up, but also how we converted those to appointments, because it seemed like you guys were asking me to go on the show up, go on stage and talk about, what I'm doing, which I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing any different other than what you guys tell me to do. But you guys just wanted me to probably reiterate what we were doing, which is what you guys were telling us to do, to have better attendance rate, have better appointments. So we'll talk about the marketing a little bit on like how we get people there, but I really think it's important to talk about the quality and how to get more people to show up and how to convert those to appointments. Because yesterday we were talking to an FMO, and they were talking about how they use some lead gen or some company that helps fill the seminars, but they don't do everything, right? They do a portion of it, like help get the registrants, but they don't do the follow-up. So it dawned on me that we should be talking about this and help people.
Perfect timing for this too, because obviously peak season for seminars is coming up, right? Everyone likes to run them in August, September, October, into November. And so the questions have come on this and what makes us different and all that stuff. So this will be a good episode to kind of go through what it takes to have a successful in-person seminar.
Yeah, and I think the topic is crucial too. We were talking to the FMO yesterday, and he had this one guy bragging about how he filled a seminar for $400 in ad spend. And I'm like, well, what was the topic? He's like, well, actually, I don't know. I'm like, well, that's kind of important, because if your topic is Social Security and you're spinning people, you're trying to spin them to do a financial plan with them or trying to sell them a product. Look, Social Security is great. You're going to get in front of a lot of people. You're going to do a lot of free consulting, though, a lot of free appointments. I've done it. I don't think that's what you want. So I'm excited because it's going to be a different perspective. It's not just from a financial advisor. It's going to be from the marketing perspective. You've done, I don't know how many at this point. How many of these do we run a month on average?
I don't know. Maybe between 30 to 40. I don't know, a lot. We have been through it and ran a lot of seminar campaigns. So yeah, I mean, we get into it. We can talk about the ads, but this is just going to go back to everything we ever preach is we always shoot for quality over quantity. Yeah. Can you do a dinner seminar and have a ton of people in there and promote Social Security and have 50 people in a room? Absolutely. Right. But at the end of the day is again, like we always say in every podcast, what is it? Is it quality or quantity that you care about? And so our entire focus is obviously quality, and we just do that in the same sort of format. From the marketing to the follow-up to even the drips after, is all focused on making sure that the quality people show up. So it'll be good to go through this. I mean, if we look at it grand scale as a marketer, what we do are just purely educational classes. We don't do dinner seminars. Have we done them in the past? Absolutely. If an advisor really wants to do it. But what I find is, if you stick with education first, much like the webinar, you just give, and then ask, right? That's just follows the same process to all of that. And so this is the same exact thing. You're not pushing a dinner. You're not pushing a meal. What you're doing is trying to just market and get people there that want to learn, right? And are very curious on the help. So it's very targeted and towards people that are not invested in a meal, but invested in education.
Yeah, and I know you still do some dinner seminars for some people, so it's not like you don't do them. I know that you've done like the women's seminars, estate planning seminars. I don't think like here we don't do like any Social Security seminars because we just totally avoid them. We've tried some, like some advisors have come to us would say, hey, can you do this annuity seminar? It's like, well, it's not going to work. Well, can you just try it? Okay, we can try it. It's not going to work. It's just a waste of money. And of course, it's a waste of money. But let's just start with like the beginning part, and then we'll go through each step on what you need to do to have a successful seminar. So first of all, let's just start with the advertising. When do we need to start the advertising? Is it 4 weeks out, 3 weeks out, 2 weeks out, the day before? What gets the best performance?
So yeah, for marketing, obviously, the majority of our marketing is on Facebook. Currently, it's just the best, cost per registration. We start marketing about 3 weekends out. And what we do, which is a little different than what a lot of other individuals will do, and just to reiterate, we're 100% digital. We're not doing any mailers or anything like that. But we'll run ads just on the weekends. Literally, we'll turn ads on Thursday and shut them off on Monday. And then, so we're just basically running for 3 weekends. We do that just because, go ahead.
I just want to stop you there because I know when you were at Retirement Wealth Academy, I was trying to tell you guys, hey, don't do it that way. I was trying to tell you this is the way you should do it, not run them constantly. And then your ad agency, who we, actually tested out or hired for like 3 months, was against that. And then I think they were more for like, running them all the way up until the day before the seminar. So can you help? Now you see the difference. So can you help us understand the difference there, why that's important?
Yeah. To be honest, as a marketer, I see both sides. One side, like the media buyer, probably not the best fit. They always shoot for impressions, right? And at the end of the day, who really cares about how many people see all your ad?
So impressions are, just to clarify, because that's a marketing language there. Impressions means how many times your ad is shown in front of somebody. It doesn't mean they clicked on it.
Converts or registered or anything like that.
It just means
they saw your ad.
Right. So if an ad agency only focuses on how many people saw your ad, who gives a flying monkey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the goal of what they're trying to do is just, if you let Facebook run all the time, they optimize a little faster. Can it produce better results? Sometimes, yes. But what Vince was trying to get to and bring home to those ads is like, listen, the majority of my registrations come over the weekend. So if I spend, let's say $500 over the weekend, I'm going to get 10 to 15 people to register. But if I spend ads on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, if I spend $500 for those 3 days, I might get 1 or 2. And so what he's saying is like, it just makes more sense to spend money when it's going to convert the best. And so when you're running on a short period of time, yes, you want ads to optimize or like, give Facebook time basically to find the right audience to register. But what Vince is saying is it just makes more sense to spend money when it's most successful. And it has proven true for the vast majority, if not all of our classes. And if you're running more and more, right? Vince, you're running what, three or four campaigns a month? That gives Facebook obviously the time to optimize with pixels and the invisible list and all that stuff we've ever talked about, right? So it's very key, and I think it's something that's very different than what most marketers or people will do, is shut ads on and off. Even Facebook yells at us all the time saying we shouldn't do that, right? But if you dig back, look at the numbers, it's 100% what we should do. And so Vince was right, and he loves to hear that. Constantly brings that up. But
let's just looking at the data.
Yeah, it's purely data driven.
Now, here's the problem though, because I remember the ad agency was like, well, we get better results. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Like, well, we have more people register. I'm like, I don't care about how many people register. I care about how many people show. So what I mean by that is there's sometimes you can get more people to register like 2-3 days before the the actual event and even sometimes the day before. So what happens is, if you say, here's $2,000, go spend it, what we would do is we'd spend it over the first weekend as much as possible, then a little bit on the second weekend. But what they were doing was spreading that $2,000 out evenly all the way up to the day of the event. And you'd get a bunch more people, that, the very end would sign up for the seminar or register, but they didn't show. So they were comparing how many people were registering, and I'm like, here's the results though. Like, here's who's showing up. Those people that signed up yesterday or the day before weren't showing up. So your results are worse than my results.
Correct. So yeah, what you're trying to say is like the reason why we do 3 weekends is we optimize for the first 2 weekends, right? We spend the majority of our budget in those first 2 weekends, knowing the people that register on the third weekend out and the second weekend out are more likely invested, more likely to show. Obviously, we'll talk about all the automations that come into all this, but those people show. The people that are last minute registries are purely more than likely just registering off a whim. They're not invested. They're not putting it in the calendar and will more likely not show. So what's cool with what we do, and like I would say what sets us apart, right, is like all this stuff has been built for Vince, and then we optimize that for every other advisor out there, right? So I'm not saying, man, we did our job, I got you 60 registrations anymore, right? That's how it was back in the day. Now it's, all right, well, I got you 40 registrations, but guess what, man? 15 or 20 of those showed. We had a 50% show rate. And then how many of those converted to appointments? What's the quality? And that's our focus, right? Is like, because it was built for Vince, we're focused on what's the quality, how many appointments did you book, and were people invested? Not, I got 6 registrations, sorry, only 20 showed, or 15 showed, and half of them were not even quality. It's just, it's a different mindset here, and it's more invested in the end result more than the front end result, which is a little bit different.
Yeah, so that's a good point. I mean, we could optimize for registrants if we wanted to for like the lowest cost.
Yep.
But I don't want that because I don't want the least amount of quality there. Like I don't want bad quality. I don't want people that I can't really work with. So, I know as an advisor or a lot of advisors out there, we like to have like 20, 30 people in the room because it makes us feel good. But then when you find out what the quality is, it's not that good. And then I know if we have 30 people in the room, I found out that if I have 15 people in the room or 30 people in the room, I'll book the same amount of appointments. So it doesn't really, you don't want 30 people in the room, technically. You can't connect with them.
7 to 8 households, right?
Yep. So I know that's the sweet spot for the non-dinners. Seminars, yeah, you could have 20 people in the room. Again, you're going to have those plate lickers in there, so you might as well just subtract, a quarter of them already. So then you're back to where we're at with the educational workshops without the dinner. So I'm just saving $2,500 a night every time doing it that way, instead of spending all that money on steak dinners and whatever else. So let's go back to the ads a little bit though, because when we launch ads, we don't launch like one ad for the venue. We launch several ads, right? And then,
I mean, especially for
walk me through the process.
Campaign.
So, yeah, walk me through the process. Like, you launched 2 or 3 ads, and then what do the guys do? Like, how do they monitor it, and then how do they know which ones to keep on or turn off, or do they keep? What's the process?
Yeah, we'll go through and dive deep into that. So when an advisor first comes, like if we're starting a campaign at a new location ever for the first time, we are going to launch campaigns 3 weekends before. There's going to be Facebook set into basically 3 tiers, and this might get a little confusing without showing it, but basically the campaign level, which is a high level overview of the budget, the ad set, which is basically you're targeting who you're targeting, the age demographics, things like that, interest groups, stuff like that. And then there's the ads, and that's basically the imagery, the copy, the landing page, stuff like that. And so it's split into 3. What we'll do with an advisor's first campaign, if it's a brand new location, is we're launching 1 campaign, 3 ad sets, and we'll start with the main ad copy that we know that works. Very geared towards taxes and retirement, tax efficiency, what they can cover, goes over date and time of the event on the page. And then we're testing in those ad sets. Each ad set is going to have a different image. And so there's 3 ad sets. Each one's running an image, same copy, and we're seeing what's going to pull better. We let that run. We monitor it every day, even over the weekend. And the underperforming ones, which is basically we're testing the image, right? If I'm explaining that okay, we're basically testing image first. That's obviously the biggest pull. We find out the location of the image works, or we use like a state sign. Again, our marketing is very much the images that work the best is like ugly images. Like some of our best performers are a state sign that literally looks like it was taken on a cell phone. The location image, that's a little different, but it's usually a picture of the outside of the building, the decent looking building. Then it kind of has the branding and all that stuff in there. And then we do an ugly, I should say ugly, but it is, invite image. And those are like the first 3 images we test. We see what one has the best cost per registration. The ones that are bad, we shut off. And then we optimize from there, whether that's change the ad copy if they're still underperforming, changing the radius or who we're targeting, things like that. But we always optimize image first. And the best performing images are always the ones that look like they were taken on a cell phone. Same thing, kind of like we've talked about with the webinar. Something that doesn't scream ad, right? And that's what we use for the ads. And then we'll shut them off on Monday, review them, and flip them back on the following Friday.
Yeah, so then we don't have to now we know which ad works for the second weekend, and we just optimize, meaning we put more of the ad dollars into that one ad, and then we're going to get good results instead of trying to spread it all out and then say, oh, well, this ad worked and this one didn't, and then we just waste a bunch of money on that one that didn't work. So we optimize it that way, makes it a lot more efficient. And then now that we got the best performing ad, if the person does the same location, we know which ones to do. But at the same time, we'll still launch the other 2 just in case that one doesn't work, because Facebook's weird. You could have like a good performing ad, and then the next week or the next month we go to the same ad, and all of a sudden it's not working, and you're like, what happened there? It's weird. So you always have to be on your toes when it comes to Facebook, especially when doing advertising. So you want to make sure that you have other images, other copy ready to go, and you don't have to spend a lot of money to test it. So after $100, we will know if it's working or not. And if it's not working, cut it.
Yeah. That's the joy of digital. I mean, like mailers, right? You shoot out 10,000 of a design mailer that someone says performs really well, right? And that's it. That's all you got. Digital, it's so nice because you can literally change it whenever you want, right? I mean, we usually give it time to run to optimize enough to give us true results, and that we can easily adjust on the fly, constantly. And so it is cool because like for Vince's, he has 3 or 4 locations that he literally rotates every month, right? That's his circuit. And now we know this ad copy works at this time and this month with this ad image, and we can optimize it there. And so when I talk to advisors and we compare cost per registration and cost per attendee with Vince, at the beginning stage is always like, all right, well, we'll get there. We'll just optimize it, right? I mean, on average, our cost per registration across the board is usually about $40
for non-dinner.
And then for non-dinner. Yeah, obviously dinner it's very much less than that, like a quarter of that. But again, quality over quantity. And so then we just say we can get you there when we optimize. So Vince's his top performing locations, they can be close to $30-$35. But I mean, and we'll go on this down the road, but probably a little later in this podcast. But Vince will still run locations where they don't pull the greatest, or it's $100 cost per registration But the cool thing is we're not focused too much on that because we're looking at quality, right? And Vince will go to these locations still because he's still getting $1 million client every time he goes there, right? And so that way outweighs that front number that I see on Facebook. And so things we learn as you grow and run locations. The thing is, just monitor it, optimize it, and then kind of rinse and repeat.
You got to track your results. So sometimes it's not always about how many registrants and how many attendees. It's about how many clients you bring in, or the quality of the client that you bring in from that. Even if like 5 people show, it's okay. But that was something that it took me a while to get over, for sure. Like it was, a blow to the ego when we had a snowstorm and 3 people showed up. I'm like, oh, geez, I'm doing a presentation in front of 3 people. It doesn't feel good because it feels like it's like a representation of your brand in a way, like who you are. Like what, you couldn't get enough people there, but the people that show up are people that are very interested, at least with the non-dinners. And so you got to still do the seminar. And funny enough, when we have that low attendees, usually there's always one client in there because it's just so much attention's given to them. So that's kind of cool. So a lot of people just need to think about that if they have like a low attendee type seminar. Don't worry about it. Realize that those 3 people that are there, or 4 or 5 or 6, those are going to be the ones that are interested in meeting and probably will become a client. So still do your best. Now, okay, so we've got the ads going. Let's talk about the follow-up process. So if someone registers let's say they register. So they go to the landing page, they register. We do a landing page specifically instead of a lead form or survey from Facebook. That way they're leaving Facebook and they're on our landing page. We've talked about our ads or performance of landing pages and that kind of stuff. So if you want to go back to our other podcasts or go to our YouTube channel, just go to YouTube, search for Mastermind Advisor. You can go look at how we do our ads and our landing pages. But once they register, we don't stop there. So walk me through how we follow up with people, because I just learned yesterday with this FMO that some of these marketing companies that help fill seminars don't do everything. And I know Retirement Wealth Academy, same thing. They didn't do everything. They had a process. They told us what the process is. You guys did email follow-up and text follow-up, but you didn't do anything else other than that.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this is probably the most important part to any class or seminar you're going to ever do, is the follow-up, right? You spent the money to get that person registered. Now you need to get them to attend. And it's very key on what you do. And it's funny to hear. I kind of get it sometimes on a marketing stand why they leave it on to the advisor to do this stuff. But our process, when someone registers, we try to take everything off the advisor's hands. And what I mean by that is we send out the emails, we send out the text message reminders. We'll send out 4 to 5 emails prior to the event, just reiterating why they registered, what they're going to learn, the date, the time, the location. Click the button for directions. They'll get 3 to 4 text messages. One, hey, text 1 to confirm that you're going to attend. They text 1. All right, well, that gives us a leeway to kind of text them throughout that time. And so they get a couple reminder text messages, one the day of. But what I've learned is a lot of people don't do the third, and that's kind of one of the more important spots, is doing follow-up calls. And what that should look like is, as soon as someone registers, you should be calling them and saying, hey, we look forward to seeing you. Just remember, it's at X time, that time. Just want to make sure you're going to attend. And then a day before call. And this one plays huge of like, hey, can't wait to see you tomorrow. Just remember it's at this time. You go in the door, take a right. It's the room over right there on your left-hand side. Things like that. When someone commits verbally, especially when you're doing digital, they're more than likely going to attend. And so, like when we're doing this FMO, we find out that they're leaving it on the company that they were using, not the FMO in general, but the company that they were using was leaving on the advisor to text and email and call. And when you look at those numbers, you can tell who's doing those calls and doing those text messages and emails and who's not, right? Because it's like 50% all the way down to 5%. And there's a swing there of attendees. Like our process on everything. I think what a lot of advisors should do, if you're not focused on registration numbers, drive them to a landing page. Make sure they type in their data. Make them committed. We then do a double opt-in and then ask them for their address. So they go to landing page, first, last, pick your class date, number of tickets, name of guest. And then once they hit submit, it goes to another page, and then they put their address in. It's a double opt-in, and the reason we do that is because then they're invested even more. And once they provide all that data, they're doing both things. Even with our email and text messages, they're more committed than they would be if I just said, hey, here's a lead form, click, and it automatically populates the hit submit. That's if I was a marketer and I was focused on, hey man, I got you 60 registrations. We spent $800. Sorry, only 1 or 2 showed up. That's that game. But again, if you build landing page, make sure to commit, send 4 to 5 emails. Again, ours are all date stamped, right? So if they register the weekend before, they're not getting all 6 in one go, right? It's time stamped. But if you're sending them, 4 to 5 emails, a day before call, day of registration call, day before email, day of text message, things like that, just all increase show rate. Can't iterate it enough because there's instances where I've seen where the advisor takes on the calls, right? We don't take the calls on, and they don't make the calls, and you can see a 25% show rate difference on just phone call differences.
They say they call them.
Yeah. Say they call them. Yeah, they'll claim, but
yeah, right. I called them. Oh, how many times did you call them? Once. Well, when did you call them? When they registered? Did you call them after that? No. What? So we have a process.
Great point.
Yeah. So we have a process that when they enter in our CRM, they'll show up as registered. And then when we make the phone calls, our guy will move it over to call 1, call 2, call 3, and then call 4 will be final voicemail. And or they'll move them to confirmed where they did talk to them. And sometimes by calling them, they'll also text back just saying, yes, I'm coming. So there is a lot of there is a lot of follow up there. But what we've noticed, or when people are like, yeah, I called them. Okay, well, how many times did you call them? I called them when they registered. Like that is not enough. And they just say they go through the motions. And also we talked about this in the last podcast about using your administrative assistant. They hate doing that stuff, typically. Maybe some are good at it, some aren't. So they might say they call them. I remember talking to one advisor, and they're like, yeah, my staff's calling them. And even after the seminar, yeah, my staff's calling them. And then we found out, no, the staff was not calling them. She was just lying. But, I can't blame her. She doesn't like doing it. And, she's forced into that part of it. So I know when you brought me out at Formafolios, you guys were like, what are you doing differently? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just following a process, which the process was Formafolios or Retirement Wealth Academy takes care of the text and the email. And then we were responsible for doing the confirmation calls and we did a mailer, right? We would send them a course syllabus. And we followed that to a T. And you guys even had the same kind of setup in the CRM where we could move them down to call 1, call 2, call 3, final voicemail, and or confirmed. And we were the ones that were following that process, and we had like a 65% show rate because we would actually put in, who showed and who didn't show, because not all advisors are good at doing that either, about, letting us know who shows and doesn't show. So the follow-up process is crucial to make sure people show. Now, we do that for advisors for the most part. The reason why I did it that way is because I wanted to make sure we didn't let the advisor fail in a way, right? Like we wanted to take away some of those things that they would probably not do. And even there's been times where, we have another guy that does the confirmation calls. If he didn't make enough confirmation calls and the advisor calls us and says, hey, we didn't have a good attendance rate, we'll go look and see, okay, what happened? Did this happen? Did this happen? Did this happen? Oh, wait a second. They didn't get that many calls. What happened there? So then we can go through Now, I think that only happened once, and then we kind of laid into, or at least I laid into somebody, and then I could probably lay into you, and then so I didn't lay into anybody else. But there's a reason why we follow that process, right? Because if we follow that process, we're going to have a good show rate, and then everyone's happy. Versus if we don't follow that process and we just like, I made the call, we're not going to get good results. We're not going to have good attendance. But there's one thing that we've added recently that is really cool. That is different than anybody else that I know of, other than maybe a one male house at this point. But the one thing that we've now done is anyone that registers for our seminars. Now this is new, so we've only really tested it out for me. And now we're going to launch it to every one of our advisors. We will know who is qualified and who's not. We will know how much they have for assets, and we'll know who doesn't. So we'll know who to focus on and who not to focus on. We'll know after the seminar who to, really pound to try to get that appointment versus who not to call to try to get that appointment. Or if they say they want an appointment, make sure we're not a good fit, right? It also tells us like their score, like how likely they are to hire someone for financial planning services. It will also tell us all their interests, their hobbies. It will tell us how much their house is worth. I mean, it tells us so much data. And then I know right now we talked about this, but it's in the works. It's getting built out right now as far as the different silos based on the different hobbies and that kind of thing. But now with our seminars, we will know who is qualified and who's not. So whenever someone says, "Oh, there's no one there is qualified," baloney. We know now how many people are qualified. I was walking through it with our rep yesterday, Josh, of my seminar coming up, and like every one of them had like 1 to 3.5 million, except for one. And so I joked with them like, "Well, wait a minute, Mike's supposed to do the seminar. I'm going to do the seminar. If Mike's out, I'm doing the seminar. There's good quality there." It's really cool to see how good of quality we're getting in front of. And part of the reason why we get in front of the good quality is actually our ad, our topic, which we didn't really talk about. The topic is taxes and retirement. There are 2 other topics that I think would bring in good quality: estate planning and the women money and power one, or the accomplished woman one. Those will bring in good quality. Everything else, I'm not interested in, to be honest. So that's also a big crucial part. Make sure you use the right topic. If we don't use the right topic, you can get a bunch of people there for Social Security. That's fine. If that's your MO, if that's what you really like, and you want just a ton of people in the room and you feel good about it because you have a ton of people in the room, yeah, do Social Security. But we'll run our data and we'll show there's not that good quality. It's not worth doing.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, it goes into data's just king. And it gives us the ability to just say like, all right, well, these 3 actually pull in really high net worth people. And there's a downfall to like, kind of like what we do is we take on everything for the advisor. And there's a downfall on our side, right? Because like, if you have a class that doesn't perform that well, I can't say, well, hey, Johnny, you didn't make the calls. That's on you, and then, or, you say you didn't have a whole lot of quality there. We know, we can see that now, right? Like the $1 million next door, like the millionaire next door, we know that quality. And again, with everything we do, we kind of take on that responsibility where we really have 0 excuses. And that's like which is good. Cause we don't have seminars that do poorly, but if we did, or when we do, we take that on. We don't say like, man, sorry, you didn't make the calls, or you didn't send out the packet, or you were doing Social Security, or, we don't have those excuses. And those are just all key things to think about. Is like the big things are just topic is king. Like what you're going to teach and what's the title of your class and who are you targeting is key. And so
location's key too.
High net worth people. What's
location's key too. Meaning that,
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that, but yeah.
yeah, I mean, we focus on libraries or colleges, universities. We'll have advisors be like, "Well, I got this nice conference room in my office. We can bring people there." No, no, stop. I I cringe. My skin crawls. They're like, "Oh, it's such a nice conference room." Yeah, that's nice for you, but no one wants to go to your office conference room because guess what? They know they're going to get pitched something. They don't, that's why we do it at libraries and colleges and universities. We don't pitch anything. It's a neutral ground. They feel comfortable going. You go to dinner, you do the dinner seminars, guess what? They know they're going to be pitched something. They know, walk in the door. So that's why I like doing the non-dinners. It's a lot more and at the right locations. I mean, right now we pick a library, we're doing great at it right now. We pick a college or university, we're doing great at it. We got a guy doing a gun club. I'm like, I don't want to do this damn gun club. We did it like one time and he had like good results, and then now we're trying for the third time and we're not getting that good results. I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like, do a normal location, library, college. And he's like, well, the colleges are closed until. I'm like, come on, find me a better location. So I don't want to waste any more money or anyone else's money. I want to do it right. Like, if you tell me you want to do it at this community center and it's like, it's the greatest location or museum or whatever, stop. Just stop. Like, let's do it at the right place, spend the right money. Don't be lazy. If you want good results, you're going to have to put some of the work in. You have to do all these follow-up things. You're going to have to do the right ad sequences. You're going to have to build up the landing pages. You're going to have to do the follow-up calls, the confirmation calls, the text messages, everything, the right location, the right topic. If you guys aren't doing that, you're just setting yourself up for failure. You're just wasting money. Why? Because you heard some other advisor doing it and it worked, supposedly? Yeah. I mean, we do this. I know, like you said, 30, 40. I know during peak season, like come here in September, I know we're going to be doing 60, 70 of these a month.
Yep. Yeah, that's just summer. Yeah. It's so funny. This doesn't go back to it, but like people that want to do like their office, or like the gun club, it's like, well, it costs less expensive. It's free, or it's $200. I'm like, okay, well, where'd you come from? And they were doing mail houses at dinners and they're spending $10K on mailers and $5K on dinners. And I'm like, well, you spend $2,500 on Facebook ads now. So where's the other $7,500 where you're saving, right? Like, right. You have to spend $600 on a room, you still break even, right? I mean, you're still not spending as much as you were on mailers and dinners. And then we'll run this gun club, for the example, and he'll be like, well, my dinners perform better. Well, I would hope so. I mean, you spent $16,000 on that dinner. I would hope it performed better. You spent $2,000 on this one, so it's like, it's that battle. And a lot of advisors just need, and this is just as a marketer, right? Not as an advisor, you just need you get so stuck in the ways of like what used to work, and there's a better way to optimize it. And we say it costs less, right? But then all of a sudden it's like, well, you only saved me 70% of my spend, not 90 like I expected, So it's like, set realized expectations. Get a good room at a library. Spend the extra money to go to a university. If a university's closed, we have advisors running seminars at universities currently. Like there's ways around that, ways to work on it. Like,
if you have to be a nonprofit, we work with a nonprofit to help you get in there. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're not paying $1,500 for a steak. You got to pay $600 for a room. No food, coffee, water, whatever. But it's the expectation there, and sometimes it's funny when I have those conversations, and that's just the thing you got to realize. It's less expensive, but at the same time, set everything up right, invest, and yes, it is extremely less expensive than a dinner seminar with mailers. But you still have to invest. You still have to put the time into the marketing, the mailers, the email, the text messages, a decent location with a nice room, nice projector, good screen, nice chairs, things like that. It's like you still have to think about the representation you're setting. And so things that you think about, right?
Yeah.
Well,
man, we went through a lot. Yeah, we went through a lot here. So appreciate you walking me through this and going through what our best practices are and bring some of those best practices over to what we do here now from Retirement Wealth Academy. I mean, we have it down to exact science at this point, where it's just repeat and rinse at this point. It's a complete system, but I know some people are struggling with that. If you're struggling with your seminars, you gotta get the right process, the follow-ups, all that stuff, and then you'll be just fine. So if you want to check us out on our website, go to mastermindadvisor.com, or go to our YouTube channel to watch this video or to watch our past videos on our marketing and email sequences and all that other stuff. Go to YouTube, search for Mastermind Advisor, and you'll find us there. As always, appreciate it. I would appreciate if you follow our podcast so you can stay up to beat, or up to date, I should say.
Up to beat works, man.
Up to date, yeah. Up to date on everything that we're doing here. So especially like our new program where we got all this new data where we can know where people are, if they're worth working with or not. On the flip side, though, if you ever call me out and say our seminars are not quality, I'm going to pull up all the data and be like, no, you just don't know how to book appointments. So then we'll work on that part, right? So that's the little bit of the, I put that little thing in my pocket now because I did have an advisor who said, oh, it's just trailer trash. I'm like, really? Let's look at this. And then the funny thing is then he met with like $1 million client that that we got later that afternoon. So I just thought that was funny. It's just, some of you guys, I love you guys, but at the same time, like you're your own worst enemy sometimes. And that's sometimes your negativity and sometimes your the way you look at things, and we just need to help fix up some of that too. So as always, Josh, look forward to talking to you next week.
Likewise, it was my pleasure.
See you later.